keep the video on, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah,
Let's
loud
switch
and
off my.
clear. Video is optional, but then as you speak, please talk, and I mean, please unmute, and we'll go like that.
Nice, nice.
So, Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. It's time to start. So, like always, we'll start with the seven realities. Then I'll introduce today's program and our guest. So, Ashok, if you're okay, you can read the seven realities. So we cycle between multiple messages that we read before we start. So today we'll read seven realities. Over to you, Ashok.
Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. The seven realities: existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following. The only real existence is that of the one and only God, who is the self in every finite self. The only real love is the love for this infinity God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. The only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuance of this love, all things, body, mind, position, welfare, and even life itself, are sacrificed. The only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. The only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so called bad, in saint and in so called sinner. This knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand without expectation of reward. When compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, to try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. The only real control is the discipline of the senses to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of character. The only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst every kind of hardship, is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Thank you, Baba, for giving me this opportunity. Jai Baba. Karthik, it seems your voice is not audible. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm on mute. Thank you. So today we are doing a special session. Welcome to the session, everyone. We are having a guest, and the guest is Thota Nageswara Rao Garu from Kakinada, who is an authority on Baba literature and has been a great researcher on multiple topics, and more importantly, full of Baba's love, right? So I met him for the first time in Kakinada on a Andhra tour of Baba places that I curated myself. And I remember fondly the 2 days, I mean, a night, I think, and 1.5 day that I spent in Kakinada, which was made special due to his quality time, inputs, and wonderful stories that he shared with me. Apart from giving me a elaborate tour of the assets and the center itself in Kakinada, so that was a great experience that started the relationship with Rao Garu. And those of you who have been in touch in the last 2, 3 episodes of our readings also realized how our paths crossed again with the nothing and the everything, and the request from the Bangalore Center for talking about this. So what happened in the last few days was I was asked to talk about any topic, and I picked nothing and everything. And after I picked the topic and confirmed the talk, I realized that I was probably not well equipped, and I had a serious lack of confidence. And quite honestly, it was Baba through Rao Garu who actually gave me the confidence back with specific messages and a context which I did not have, which is not available online, right? So there's very little content available online about the Bhau Nothing and Everything book. And the only credible and large repository of content I found was on Meher channel, and there were multiple audio files by Thota Nageswara Rao Garu, and that's how I came to understand more about the book. And so I sent him a message. We had a conversation, and he actually pepped me up literally hours before my talk. So more on that some other time. But now let's focus on the topic at hand for today, and that is stay with God. So when I mentioned to him about stay with God, he told me his experience. And given that we are just about embarking on the journey of stay with God, we thought that he was grateful enough. I mean, graceful enough to join and say, "I'd like to share my experiences and what he has to." He's done a lot of research on this topic of stay with God, apart from attempting and completing a translation with a group of people from Hyderabad on the book. So, without further ado, I would like to hand this over to Thota Nageswara Rao Garu. Before that, maybe 2-3 minutes on what we have done and what we've been working on as a group. So, like I mentioned to Rao Garu sometime back, we are all the head people, people that focus on trying to understand Baba's word and Baba's messages from the brain, which probably he doesn't want. He wants more of the heart. There are a few of us that balance it out in the group, but largely we are a group that's very intensely interested in learning more, learning and connecting the various pieces in that we learn in the books, and we do thorough reads of the books. So if you're able to see my screen, you'll actually see our channel. And if you go to one sec, I'll just go to the playlist. So this will give you an idea of what we did. So we started in actually April of 2020. I published the playlist later. We did 22 videos and a thorough read of God Speaks, literally during lockdown of the first intensive India lockdown. And then we did discourses, that was in 21. And we did another round of discourses. I'll show you a little bit of what we did, which was interesting there. Then we did Listen Humanity, and then we did Nothing and the Everything. And then right now we are with Stay with God. Along the way, we also read the Beams. We also read, so God Speaks, we did twice already, right? So I think it's been a fantastic learning experience for the core group of us, which may be just a handful. But what's interesting is we seem to have left a digital footprint that's useful to others, and that's Baba's work. I was just looking at some of the comments we have received on the channel from literally all over the world, right? So, and these are people that I've not promoted the channel, I've not done anything, but I just post the videos and we see a handful of views. But if you see somebody is actually looking at our 2020 playlist and discovered what we goofed up on. There's one video that's missing, and that person actually, I think, from South America, is actually pointing out that one of it is missing. Then we had some interesting conversations from people. I had a conversation with somebody from Assam who felt really moved by our channel and its content, and drew that person to Baba through our content. There were other people similarly from Nagpur, a doctor who talked to me multiple times after looking at the video and then trying to connect. So I think we are doing something interesting in Baba's ways, and it's his work we are tasked with. Along the way, trying to sort our obsession with trying to understand and use the brain. So that's the way I look at what MBA stands for. And with that, I hand over to Thota Nageswara Rao garu. I'll stop sharing as well. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us this morning, Thota Nageswara Rao. And also, I welcome you to all the others who have joined live. Thank you.
Jai Baba, all of you.
Welcome from all of us.
Jai Baba, Jai Baba. So, first of all, let me offer the small prayer. Beloved God, help us all to love you more
Love
and
you
more
more and
and
more.
more and more and still yet more till we become worthy of union with you. And help us all to hold
So,
fast to Baba's Dharma
Baba Dhamma
till the very end.
ki
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Baba ki jai.
Yeah, Karthik is my old friend, and Raghupati ji is my oldest friend, I can tell you, among the group. And all others, perhaps, if I look at them, I may be able to recognize one or two, I do not know. But thank you very much because, you expressed your willingness to bear with me. Yeah, for more than an hour. It is always a pleasure, to talk about the Lord because I'm in the business of talking, for quite some time. So Eric says it is the madness that Baba gives his lovers as a gift, So I am one of the recipients of that madness from my beloved. So I go on sharing, sharing, sharing. As an young boy, when I met Balnato and I expressed my liking, to his books, he said, let what you read, let it not die with you. You go on sharing, sharing, sharing. So I took that job of sharing, onto my shoulders. And Raghupati Rao was there, in breaking the great book, Stay with God, in our endeavor to understand, you know. So let me share my journey with Stay with God. Perhaps that may open some windows to many of us. Always I was keeping Stay with God, away from my table because I was a bit scared. I am not well conversant with that poetic form of books, so I thought it is not my cup of tea. So in Kakinada Center for the last 12 years we have been doing this book reading business on a daily basis. So we read Baba's books in original, and then and there we try to provide the Telugu translation also, and we record it and make the audio available online so that Telugu speaking people wherever they live, they can make use of this and they can be benefited, because everyone is not used to reading books and understanding books. Particularly the housewives, they found it quite useful. So some people, they asked me, why don't you take up Stay with God, because Baba says it is one of the great books. No, 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 I have been just hesitant to do that. So in one of the sahvases, I was just having my lunch. One old man came there, he also just having his lunch along with me, standing, it was a buffet. Then he said, I brought a gift to you. What is that? I said. So he says, Stay with God book. No, already I have one copy. Give it to somebody who, does not have it. He says, no, 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 it is not possible that you have it. Then he gave the book to me. No, it is signed by Baba. So it bears the signature of the God man. So I was shocked. How you can just gift it away to somebody, such a great treasure. Then he humbly said, no, no, sir, I do not understand even a single line of it. It was given to my father when he went to Guru Prasad, to have Baba's darshan. So I think, if it is given to you, you will be inspired to read it and share it in Telugu to everyone so that everyone in Andhra would be benefited. That is why I want to gift it to you. So I felt, Baba started, pressurizing me to take it very seriously. But I could not gather guts to go ahead. So I requested, friends like Raghupati Rao ji of Bangalore and also some of my friends at Hyderabad and to just, participate in my great endeavor. So I am reminded of the story of five blind men going to feel an elephant. You know that. So one blind person, he could touch the ear of the elephant. He said it is very big, like a sheet or something. Somebody he picks up the tail. He says it is like a broom. Something. So like that, if the experience of everyone is put together, there can be a comprehensive understanding. That is the advantage of a group discussion because each one has got a definite window. His mind is like a window. So he would be used to seeing only in one particular angle only. But five people or 10 people put together, if we aim for that, we can be benefited by everyone's understanding of it like that. And there were days where, we could not break one poem. We could not understand, what Francis is rather trying to tell. So we had no option but to stand in front of Baba and ask him, Baba, please help me. Because, I put Baba's photo on the wall, behind my system. So I would look into his eyes and look at his feet. Baba, you have to help me out. So suddenly, some flash comes in my mind. So I could try to put it, the way it is understandable. So like that, we could completely translate the whole book in prose form, not in poetic form. It is beyond my capacity. So we could put it online also. And Telugu people, of course, they are now not afraid of discussing about stay with God because they could go through the Telugu prose version of it, so they can understand. Oh, this is what Francis is trying to tell. I think youngsters like Karthik and others, you have to take it as a great challenge because Baba says nobody in the world should feel that he is denied of my words because he is not comfortable with English. And Baba's books were written, way back since 1930 onwards. So, as you know, any language in the world, it undergoes major changes every 20 years or 10 years, like that. So, it is our duty, I feel personally, to go on presenting it in the most contemporary style. Suppose God speaks is there, discourses is there. So some commentary like thing, we should be able to make available to the world at large. You can't say Baba has given this verbatim, you have to understand. No, they cannot do it. People who are really comfortable with English, still they find it difficult because, it was compiled according to the style that was existing at that time. You see, 1955, 1956 or 35. You see, discourses, it was in 1940s. 38 to 40s. So that style, now it is very difficult for an youngster to follow and adopt. So that is why, we need to do something, Baba expects us. And Baba said, when you interpret my words, when you translate my words, ensure that you make it interesting to the audience or the readers. That is the rider that Baba has given us. So if we present it in an unimpressive way, perhaps we are not doing justice to that. So that's why, I feel we need to add some more explanation or borrow some other instances, some other examples or episodes and make it quite interesting. So this is my rather journey to stay with God. And Raghupati ji, he knows, because we travel together. So coming to stay with God proper, let me tell you, when we try to understand a poetic format, we should go taking the help of our imagination, isn't it? Because it is a great tool. So if you want to really imagine, you need to have certain concrete, rather guidelines. And if you know the life of the poet, and if you know the background of the poet, if you know the faith and conviction that the poet had in his beloved, you will be able to navigate quite comfortably. That is my strong conviction. So one who wants to really read Stay with God, he needs to go deep into the life of Francis. If you go deep into the life of Francis, you will be able to understand the way he thinks, the way he is made, the way his psychology works. And if you come to know the conviction he has in his beloved, that helps, to break several enigmas or riddles which you come across. Sometimes, we feel that we are caught unawares. We do not know how to proceed. Suddenly he starts something. That is how to connect with the main theme, with the main flow, will be at a loss. So that is why, I suggest that you should go deep into the life of Francis Brabazon. And then you will come to know and appreciate the amount of labor that the God man puts into the making of a great lover, a great poet, the homework he does, and the intensity of his rather planning, you will come to know. Because he rose from a very small beginning, Francis. But how he was just shaped into a great poet. That is all the working of the avatar. And one day, Ward Parks, he shared with me. So we will be wonderstruck if we just analyze, the amount of homework that the avatar does. So 600 years ago, God thought that he wanted to give God speaks to the world. For that, he wanted a universal language. So he provoked, UK people, Britishers, you go and win over the world so that one universal language can be created. And that is how English has become the universal language. And after Baba has, come down, in 1894, so the universal language is ready, Then Baba used that language of English to give out his epic God Speaks to the world. So now God Speaks can permeate into any corner of the world, because that universal language is already ready. So that is the magnitude of the working of the avatar. So if I look at Francis's life, I understand it. Oh, this is how you know Baba could mold such a genius out of just a common man. And you also should go through the conviction and the love Francis had for Baba. That provides a beautiful platform to take off, with stay with God. That is very important. So when we go through the other works of Francis, you will come across some thrilling experiences. Once Baba asked, "Are fool, what do you want? Come on, ask me. I want to grant you." So Francis says, "Baba, you say that you will come after 700 years. If you can assure me that you will grant me the same companionship of living at your feet, I am ready to wait until 700. I don't want God realization and all that. It is not my cup of tea. Originally, I was a stone, but traveling so many incarnations, so many forms I associated myself with, and I could develop two eyes only to enjoy your divine beauty, isn't it? Share your company. So now, don't bring the subject of realization and all that. There is no maja in realization, he would say. So everything is in your company. And taking several incarnations, millions and millions of incarnations, I have mastered the art of being born and dying. I don't mind taking another hundreds of lives, no problem. But please promise me that you would grant me with the same companionship which you have now granted me. So that is the level of faith he has. So all through the book, he tries his best to keep his beloved at the highest altar. And he himself, he keeps him very low at the lowest rank. That is the greatness. All through the book, you can find this common fabric running through. Yeah. So you have to have a grasp of, Francis's connection with the beloved. That is very, very, very vital. So if you are equipped with these things, yes, you can go ahead. Another thing is, stay with God is not meant for an isolated reading. That is my own experience because I failed miserably several times. So only in a company, everyone comes out with a fresh idea. Maybe this, maybe this, maybe this. Then we will be able to go along. That is my sincere suggestion to you. And coming to stay with God, Francis says the whole book is just highlighting the greatness of the advent of the avatar, to celebrate the advent of the avatar. So in one word, why he has chosen the word stay with God, Francis says God uses advent of the avatar to stay with the universe, and the universe can stay with God only when he comes down as avatar. That is the greatness of the word stay with God. So for God to stay with God, and for man to stay with God, advent of the avatar is the only channel. It is the only channel. Yeah. That is why he says, stay with God. So in other words, I feel this book helps you to stay with God. If you want to stay with God, this is the way. Come on, read this book. Okay. Then let me tell you why a Baba lover should stay with God very seriously. I tell you, anything which pleases Baba, it should be accorded the first priority in our life, isn't it? Whatever pleases Baba, we should always, accord the first priority. And let me tell you that, if we read Stay with God, it pleases Baba immensely, really. And if we discuss of Mehra, if we discuss of Francis, if we discuss of Erich, it pleases Baba so immensely because being the father, he enjoys, isn't it? When his child is praised, when his a great work, is discussed and read, he he will be pleased. No doubt about it. That is why if you want to please Baba, you read Stay with God. That should be. Because let me just put forward, different statements that Baba made about Stay with God. And Baba says, Baba had the book read to him 3 times, stating that it gave life to his own book, God Speaks. You see, God expressing such a feeling, with regard to a book written by a human being. He says, it gave life to my own book, God Speaks. And also said, my love will touch the hearts of all who read it, as no book has ever done. Let me repeat. My love will touch the hearts of all who read it, as no book has ever done it. And Baba apparently says it is second only to God speaks. And Baba even commented, I feel so proud having written this book through you. No, he commented with Francis. So Baba himself said, I executed this book myself through you. And Baba also said it would be read for 1,000 years and that there would be volumes written on and about the book. And once Francis commented to Baba, Baba, you always mention Hafiz, 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 but I do not understand anything written by him. It is all Greek and Latin to me. So Baba smiled and assured Francis, Francis, next time when I come, no more Hafiz, only Francis, Francis, Francis. So that is the status, that Baba accorded to Francis Brabazon. So you all would have gone through the life of Francis, I am very sure. Isn't Kartik? Isn't it? So you must have gone through it by now. So let me not ponder into the life story of Francis Brabazon.
Very briefly,
Okay.
we have discussed that. But we please show us your slides that you were showing me yesterday and the photographs, because that will be good context for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
I have encouraged everybody to see some of the videos of Ward Parks, one of which focuses on his life history, biographical view of Francis. But I don't know how many have seen it. But it will be great if you can cover some of that today as well. Thank you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Jai Baba. Yes, I am sharing my screen. So my screen is visible, Kartik.
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
You all know that, Francis was a Sufi before coming to Baba. So he was somehow connected with Arabia. Yeah, yeah. So American Sufis, he was connected. And through them, he wanted to visit Baba by visiting India. But, Baba, was postponing. And he wanted to meet Baba when he visited Mitchell Beach in 1952. So he landed there in America well in advance. But Baba kept on postponing his trip. So he could not, travel back. So he stayed there in the US and he worked as a watchman in one of the apartments for almost a full year. So that was his rather favor, to see the beloved. So you can see this. When Baba visited Australia, so this photograph was taken. So Francis sitting here in Baba's presence, it was in Mera Jad. Here he writes, you see, while Francis had come to the conclusion that to entertain the beloved is the only valid reason for a poem. What a wonderful way to put it, you see. To entertain the beloved is the only valid reason for a poem. So this is Francis's grave. So other photographs of Francis. So this is in Andhra Pradesh. During Baba's tour, Baba wanted him to accompany him. So he wrote a beautiful book also. Like Stay with God, he wrote Journey with God. That is his trip to the Andhra Pradesh, along with the beloved. It is also in a poetic form. So beautiful, very, very small book. Journey with God. So Francis was of a very strong build, And there is a video, if you want, you can see on the net. where he was just breaking the mountain and carving out stones to be used as boulders in the construction of Meher board there in Australia. It was very strong. Yeah, this is a close up, Francis. And I have seen Francis when I was very young. It was in 1970s. So he was a very, very, what shall I say, a reserved person. Would not so easily mingle. So here, Baba offers his own hand for Francis to kiss. And along with Yerich, he would accompany Baba for walking and all that, within Guru Prasad. This was in Guru Prasad. So he would be ready by Baba's side, to extend any help, physical or, literary, both. So here, he's putting sandals to Baba's feet. This is one of the last photographs, taken. So Francis, always he would prefer to sit near the feet of the beloved. So this is also Francis in a jovial mode, very jovial mode. Stay with God, this is the original version. This is the latest version, which we see now. Yeah, this is another epic, In Dust I Sing. This is also poetic version. This is English ghazal. Baba wanted him to write ghazals like Hafiz in English. So he started doing that. It's a wonderful, very, very nice. His feelings, presented in a very sweet way. And this is the prose, you must have heard, Silent Word, very sweet book about Baba's life. He could write only the first half of it. And this is one of the most popular talks of Francis Brabazon. He gave 3 talks in all, very small book. It was published by Meherira publications, I think, very cheap, 10 rupees or so the book. You can get it in Meher Darbar in Mehrabad also. So this is the simple property that Francis had. Only one trunk box. That is all. So this is the grave of Francis, now with Australia. Yeah, very simple. Yeah. So if we go into the genesis of Stay with God, Francis attended Sahwas, 1955 Sahwas, along with Don Stevens. Don Stevens also was a Sufi, that. So Baba gave an order to both of them. Both of you write a book each. And Baba gave the theme of Stay with God to Francis. And Baba gave the theme of Listen Humanity to Don Stevens. Then, either of them, they came up with their own works, That is how Stay with God has come into existence. But Francis, he did not take Baba's word very seriously. Rather, to compile a work like Stay with God. Somehow he was postponing it, but Baba was very, very particular about that. No, you do it. So he did it and he presented it to Baba, and Baba suggested certain corrections. When you go through the poem, you find that a particular lover, he would say, Francis says, a lover came there, a disciple came there, something like that. Originally, he mentioned the names like Vasudev came, like, Ramju Abdullah, and Baba deleted, don't use the proper names, just say a disciple. That's all. So that is how, Baba himself suggested several corrections to the book. And actually the episode of the opening of the book, it is so wonderful. Francis took the book to Baba, wrapped up in a beautiful wrapper, and he presented it Baba's feet. And then he put it in a plate with flowers and all that, and he offered it to Baba. And Francis says, I went very close to Baba, and when Baba was tearing the wrapper, I was looking at the wrapper and also inside the wrapper, though myself sealed it, because with Baba's touch, everything it undergoes a transformation. So Baba took out the book, and there was an elaborate beam in Baba's face, and he held it to his heart. Francis says, and he said, then I myself executed this great work through Francis. And then he put it in his coat pocket and he walked away. So Francis says, we were all wonderstruck. Where Baba is going? So we went to women's side. And after 5 minutes, he came back. Then Francis says, he showed it to his dear one, Mehra, because anything that Baba loves the most, he would first share it with his beloved Mehra. Then, he showed it to everyone. So meticulously, Baba was rather, keeping her status and her rank, number one. After Baba, Mehra's status, her rank is number one. So he showed it to Mehra, and then he came, then he gave out, all the statements which you have gone through. Yeah. So that is what. And Karthik, you want me to go into the book proper?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. No, because you have your own way of
No.
going
So
about.
we will be reading it in detail anyway again. But
Okay.
we would love you to take up passages. We'd love you to get into the book proper as well.
Yeah. So if you see the book, it has 5 sections, and Francis calls them book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, book 5. So in the book 1, Meher Baba, the occurrence of reality in illusion. So this deals with Baba's life story in a poetic form, and most beautifully presented. So he uses the term, the occurrence of reality in illusion. He does not say advent of the avatar. Because being a poet, that is the sweetest way of expression. And if you go into the Lord Meher, Bhauji also, in the introduction to Lord Meher, he says, the lives of all of us, we are 900 crores, population, the world population, roughly now. So each one has his own life. But Bauji says all these lives are lives led in illusion, illusory lives. So among these illusory lives, there is only one real life, and that is the life led by reality itself. Life led by reality itself. Because Baba said, my life cannot be a part of illusion, because all the time I am aware of my reality. So a reality cannot be a part of illusion. That is why, the life led by reality is the only real life among the various illusory lives. So Bauji says, if you really want to know and read about such a real life led in illusion, this is the only source, Lord Meher. So running into several volumes, 20 volumes, you see. So that contains the detail of every day of that real life led in illusion. So same way here, Francis says the occurrence of reality in illusion. So he explains, using very beautiful explanations. And in the beginning, before he actually goes into the life of the avatar, let me tell you briefly about the style that Francis chose, and also what Baba wanted to work with the world. Let me just share my views. Francis used different expressions and phrases which are common to different faiths and civilizations and cultures of the world. He profusely uses episodes and explanations from Vedanta and from Islam and from Arabic world. Yes, and also from several other civilizations, which as a as an individual I am not aware of. You may be aware. Some people may be more learned than me, but I do not know because Icelandish Njal saga, certain other things. He just scans through the whole cultures of the world: Italian culture, Arabic culture, Roman culture, Western culture. Even he goes to the extent Chinese culture. Everything he touches, and ultimately he brings everything to end in Baba. And he says, this is the ultimate destiny of all religions and faiths. Perhaps in future, Baba wants to use stay with God as a bridge to use all faiths and religions to come to his feet. Maybe Baba has designed and he has provoked Francis to do it that way. That is why, Francis, he begins with Kailash. With Kailash. Because, for Hindus and those who follow Vedanta, the Kailash. Kailash is very popular, because we take it as the abode of God, Shiva, Lord Shiva. Kailash. So I feel why he has Francis chose Kailash for him to fly to. I feel any poet before he wants to write down, he would use his wings and he would soar high into the sky of his own imagination, isn't it? So he would become a bird like, and using his wings, he will fly into the universe of imagination. So where should I fly? I have to choose the most ideal spot, to fly. So he chose Kailash because people say that it is the most ancient origin of God's abode. In every religion or every culture, God's abode is mentioned. But the remotest thing is Kailash, most ancient thing. So he thinks, it is fair for me to fly to Kailash so that, I get inspired. My soul, would be rather, thoroughly inspired. Because the next poem he says, the minimum qualification required to write your life story is one should be a saint, isn't it? At least to compile and collate, details about your life, one should be an intellectual. And I don't have both of the qualifications. So you please be by my side. You please be my inspiration, and you be my wings, and you help me. So beautifully. See, that is why he starts with that. Then he would explain, the role of the Sadguru and what the Sadgurus do, and how the Sadgurus bring down the avatar, and how the Sadgurus, they choose the parents, and how they protect the child, of the avatar in the beginning. You see, the protective quality, like a parent, they discharge that role of being the parent, so nicely he puts it. And he explains everything until the book is published, in 1949 or so it was published, if I remember well. Until that time, Baba's life story, he gave it in that particular book. And book two, here, Francis expresses his own experience with the beloved. He just, pours out his heart, his feeling about his beloved. John Kerry, of course, it is his own John Kerry means Francis. We can just substitute, Illusion singing to reality. Because, he's a part of illusion, We are all, as human beings, we are part of illusion. And singing to reality. Baba is reality. So we express our own feelings. So that is what. And then, third book is God's speaking. So entire God speaks, it is retold. I think 5 times or 6 times. He says, there are actually 5 narrations of the entire theme of God speaks. And each narration, he focuses on a particular thing. And in one particular narration, he says, samskaras, he highlights the importance of samskaras. And in the other section, he takes the body, something like that. So he goes on narrating the entire theme of God speaks in just 5 different ways. And this is what Baba said, your book gave life to my book, God speaks. That is what. And then a steps to his feet. Here, the spiritual path is briefly explained. He would almost, dwell on each aspect of the path. Then the God man as world axis and living perfection of art. So I understand that in this section, he scans through the world of art and all the cultures of the world. And art, not merely one particular art. He takes up music, painting, writing, sculpturing, everything, And he would mention all, suppose, Western culture, Western music. He would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. And he says, all are useless except the following. Like that painting, all are useless. They lead you to illusion only. It makes your grip on illusion more firm. No, this is useful painting because, like that, he explains, because the best he chooses among music, painting, writing, sculpture, etc., because they remind you of the beloved, because they dwell on the love for the beloved, isn't it? They display the beauty of the artist, his connection with the beloved. So, like that, he scans through the whole world. So that is what, a book contains totally 5 books. And sometimes I feel, though we feel that we are very familiar with Vedanta, we can realize that we miss several important things in our own Vedanta also. Because so beautifully he points out, let me just share one beautiful thing with you. You must have heard, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one who is considered the father of the ISKCON movement, So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so nicely he would explain in some of the poems that he would just sing and chant the glory of his beloved, And when he does it, everyone sitting around, they are influenced by his heart, by his devotion, by his love. Even the animals, they would join the dance. Such is the power of devotion, So he would say, intellectualizing the things, it is not spirituality. And once Baba said, you are used to externalizing spirituality. Love does not mean outward expression. I have come to internalize spirituality. That is very, very crucial. Some time ago, Karthik mentioned, we are all terribly brainy and all that. Yes, because intellect is the most common tool to all of us to use, to express our devotion or to understand God. Because the moment something is offered to us, we try to understand that because that is the only tool we are used to, isn't it? So we use our intellect. Is he okay? Is he not okay? Let me pass judgment. Let me sit over judging things, That is how. But Baba says spirituality has got nothing to do with the intellect. It has got everything to do with the heart. So that is what, Francis, he masters that particular angle. Baba says there are two sections in the mind. One is thoughts, another is feeling. And Baba also says spirituality is concerned with the feeling part only, not with the thinking part. So it is the role of the intellect, thinking all the time. But feeling, heart has everything to do with that feeling section. So Baba says, you have to. That is why so beautifully, Francis in some of the poems, he sees third dimension, two dimensional, you can find in some of the poems in Stay with God. So that is what. So we are used to two dimension, length and breadth. Suppose you see a photo or a painting, it has two dimensions, length and breadth. But the third dimension, it is the faith. So that third dimension is the crux of spirituality. So any painting that can project that third dimension, any music that can project that third dimension, it is worthy, useful, he says. That is faith and conviction for God. The love, the feeling that he has brought out in this, particularly in this part 5 of the book, very nicely he brings it out. So this is, in a nutshell about Stay with God. And I would request Kartik, if you feel that you are not able to break something, you can, we can all sit together and we'll try to break it, because we have already put in a lot of labor, our contribution may be useful to you all. And the Telugu translation already it is available online. If any one of you is a proficient in Telugu, you can just put it in simple English so that every youngster can just follow that. Yeah, Karthik, you want me to
Great.
talk about? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think with that, thank you so much for the rich context and background on Francis, and also about the sections in the book itself. Um I would now throw it open for our team to ask any specific questions, because obviously we made it. We'd like to keep it as interactive as possible. So, as I said, we have done some research. I will probably show that as well
Please.
on what we did. But I will first open it up for questions, and then I will tell you what all we did in this journey. Again, guided largely by what's available online. I have a hand up. Ashok, go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, Jai Baba,
Jai Baba, Jai Baba.
Mr. Nageswara Rao. I mean, this is really an eye opener for us, because we've been trying to just start, or we started, but we found it. We're going through a similar journey where you have been. I have a very simple question,
Please.
and that is basically Kailash, the place Kailash Parvat. Uh, I believe it is in China. So, have any of our Meher Baba lovers gone there, or is it approachable? Yeah, if it's not approachable, of course we have Mehrabad, Mehrazad, and so many other places where Baba has visited, including Myrtle Beach and Meher Baba's abode where Francis was there. This is just a simple question I have at this point in time. Thank you, Jay Baba.
Jai Baba, Jai Baba. I feel, here Francis is trying to link Baba with all the great traditions we have in the world: Vedanta, Buddhism, Islam, and all that. I think it does not mean that we should go back into the history and try to visit all those places, try to read all those books and all that. It is not necessary, I feel, because Baba has given us a fresh dispensation of the same old ancient love, isn't it? And he says, have it, enjoy it, This is the latest version of it. So when Francis mentions all these things, he does not mean that you should go back to all those things and probe it and all that. I don't consider it is necessary. Just he would like to present that the same old truth is presented in a new contemporary style. That's all. So he mentions the Kailas because the same Lord Shiva has come again to say that. Or he would refer to Buddhism, the same Buddha has come again. He would refer to Assisi, the great saint, Francis, because the same Jesus has come again. So every poem he would show that your Baba is none other than the same Jesus, none other than the same Shiva, none other than the same Buddha, none other than the same Muhammad. Just like that, You got me, sir?
Wait. Thank you.
Yeah. And let me put another this thing. Suppose Oxford University Dictionary is there. It is running into some 200th edition, suppose. And the 200th edition, it includes even volume number, edition number 1 in it, isn't it? Edition number 2, everything. But if you take the first edition, it would not include the amendments you have brought about in the latest edition. So like that, in Baba, you can find Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, everything. But if you go back to Kailash, you don't find Baba there because, this is the latest amendment that has come. Isn't it, sir? So it may be, it is correct to say that every earlier avatar is included in Baba. It may not be so correct to say that Baba is there in every old avatars. That is what I mean to convey to you, sir.
Perfect. I think thank you so much for that answer. I'd like to add a couple of points. So I think
Please.
Specifically on Kailasa, that comes across like a theme that he uses quite powerfully. And I think that's his poetic license. Baba, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, far less referred to Kailasa than the importance given by Francis in this book, right? So obviously it's a theme that he loves, and he has used Kailasa as a representation of Shiva in mountain form in multiple places. Like that, he picks up multiple themes. And again, I have not read the book completely, but we have come across already the sun and the moon, right? The night and the day. That's a theme that he keeps bringing up as an idea of contrast. So these are all the poetic tools that he's using. But I totally agree with Rao Garu, right? The place is less significant, of course, as people in illusion, we'd love to share those experiences and relive those moments. I think we are at liberty and we are free to do that, but I think it's less important than the
So
places.
he's trying to connect, with the present advent with the earlier advents.
Exactly.
Yes.
JK Kamagaru.
Jai Baba, Mr. Rao.
Jai Baba, sir. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. So it was a very nice introduction about this book, Stay with God, which I personally have not had a chance to read. So my question is that you spoke about that Baba said after God speaks, stay with God is a kind of a compliment to God speaks. So one of the observation that somebody did a long time ago, a Baba lover told me that when you look at God Speaks, the book basically talks about the theme of creation, and there is not much about love as such. That was one thing he pointed out. And the second thing is what I wanted to know is that reading Baba's literature and understanding the messages, isn't it the main objective here is that Baba is our own self, which he has repeatedly pointed out in the Lover and the Beloved, and also in the How to Love God, the eighth postulate, where the goal of life is to love God and find him as our own self. So when we read about, when we read these different descriptions of different avatars and so on and so forth, ultimately the bottom line is our job is to discover our own self, the realized self, which is basically Baba within us. So if we keep emphasizing on Baba as the avatar, because Baba himself is the first drop soul who became God realized by the eternal avataric infinite consciousness. I call it the the first drop soul who won the lottery of self-realization or God realization, and he was designated as the avatar or chairman emeritus. And we are the other drop souls who are in the similar journey. And because the theme of creation is such that the script is such where we need to have the guidance of a perfect master or avatar to transcend from the sixth plane of duality, where we see God everywhere, and we need to transcend to the seventh plane of consciousness, where we find our own self and that we unite with the universal self. So, can you say something about that?
So you want me to touch the subject of the importance of going through Baba's literature, for a lover, is it necessary or not?
More than what I'm interested in is if you could point out whether in Sir Francis' book and all his other literature, when he is writing about Baba and everything else, about his own experience and his own understanding and the messages. Um, my point is here is that sometimes we lose fact, we lose the objective that we are all here for our own self emancipation, and Baba is the medium for us to know ourselves.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
in the process of reading, what happens, we get caught up in the
Yeah, yeah,
semantics and the stories and the
yeah.
adventures and so on
Yes,
and
sir.
so
Yes,
forth.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me
So,
just try to dwell on that. Yeah, yeah. Sir, as I told
yeah.
you at some time ago, the tool that we use, is intellect, isn't it? We are used to that for over millions of lifetimes, incarnations. We are using our intellect only. So our intellect should be first convinced about a particular thing. Otherwise, it's a big hurdle. Actually, spirituality is connected with the heart, but intellect is standing outside the gate. It will not permit anything unless you convince it first. So you need to convince it. So these literature, these books, these explanations somehow help. To convince the intellect. Once the intellect gets convinced, it will allow the heart to enjoy the feast of it. So it is like a gatekeeper, it won't permit, anything unless it gets itself convinced. So these books, these things, they try to convince the intellect. Then, what conviction means, it is defined like this. I have conviction about a particular thing. What does it mean? What my mind says about that particular thing is consented to by the heart. Then I can be said to be having conviction about that particular aspect. You got me, sir? So conviction means both heart and mind, they coincide with regard to that particular subject. Then I have conviction. Whatever my mind says, the heart also says, yeah, okay. And whatever my heart says, the heart says, okay. Mind also says, okay. So that conviction is very vital for a lover. And once he gets that conviction, it is not necessary to read the books. Suppose you go to Muhammad Master. No, he does not read discourses and God speaks and stay with God. Not necessary at all. Because his heart is open to appreciate his beloved. So until that time, only intellect, it dominates. So to just, control the intellect, to pamper the intellect, somehow to convince the intellect, all this reading is useful. Baba also said this. To satisfy the intellectual convulsions of a man, I give out this God speaks. Baba said that. No, because we have that intellectual hunger. We want to know, we want to understand. And Baba also said, do you know what is the goal of all learning? And the goal is there is nothing to learn. That is the goal of this so called learning. The goal of all learning is to know that there is nothing to learn. Yeah. But until we arrive at that, we should go on learning. Because, to appease the intellect, to convince and satisfy the intellect. That is what, sir. I think, I have tried to answer your question, sir.
I think I'm provoked to ask a follow on.
Please.
Can I just
Yeah,
one?
go ahead, Kama first. After you.
Yeah, thanks. So, Jai Baba, I think Mr. Rao, I think what you have said is perfectly right. Just to extrapolate on what you just said and how I have come to my own conviction of Baba is basically that, as you rightly put it, the mind and heart have to synchronize because we have a material body. And as Baba said, man has gone from the age of animal instinct to the age of analytical reasoning mind, and today it is the age of intuition. And what we see in our current society, in a digital economy, that the mind, the intellect, is a kind of a tool which we need to use as a bridge to transcend to the heart intuition, which you rightly said. So ultimately, it's all about love. And till we get the gift of pure love from Baba, as he said in the discourses on the chapter on love, till that time, we need to use our intellect and help ourselves in, there are certain spiritual attributes that Baba
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah. There is one word
Which
used
we,
by Baba,
which yes,
subjugating the intellect.
right. So we need to imbibe those spiritual attributes like,
Yeah, yeah,
backbiting, happiness of others at the cost, rather than at the cost of our own happiness and so on. But my understanding of Baba is basically that what we are doing as human beings in the waking status is all about relationships.
yeah,
Relationships in the 16 hours of our waking state of consciousness, where we deal with both animate and inanimate matter in our daily life, right from the time we wake up. So, the challenge basically for a human being today is how do we work on these relationships, both in terms of how we deal with people outside us, friends, family, both in our personal and professional life, and also the relationship that we have with ourselves, because the ego is always clashing with the real I self. So to me, all the Baba messages is basically focusing on how to behave, how our behavior should meet the messages of Baba, so that we can create this balance that you talked about.
yeah.
Jai Baba.
Just let me conclude by quoting Baba, sir. Baba said, just let people, just let them not read my books and messages and explanations. That is not enough. Let your life be a living message of my love and truth. Your life should be such that people draw a lesson from it. They are inspired into loving me, Baba says. So that is what you have been putting forward, isn't it, sir?
Exactly,
Essence is, yeah,
exactly. Correct.
essence is love, practical aspect.
Yes, the essence of Baba messages is how
Yes, sir,
we
yes,
relate
sir,
with the outside world. Yeah,
yes, sir,
Jai Baba.
yes, sir. Hey, Baba, thank you. Karthik,
So
you want to
yeah,
say?
my follow-on question. So I think, as I said, we are not intellectual guys, but all I meant was we are intellectual focused guys, which is a problem, right? So let me add on to Kama's and your discussion by saying, is it easier for some of us on the path to give up on this intellectual pursuit and gain easier convictions? I'd like Nomita also to comment on it, right? Because uh, for us, understanding is taking too long, whereas for others, they are drawn by Baba's love and they suspend the role of the intellect very quickly, right? So I think it's just our samskaras, but I'd draw upon your comments as well on it, because that's
Yeah,
something we keep debating a lot in this
yeah,
group.
yeah, yeah. Suppose Baba compares, this like this. We go by a car, and the driver's seat, my mind sits there, intellect. And heart also is there, but it is relegated to the back seat. So suddenly the heart, wakes up and suggests certain things to you. Don't go at such a crazy speed and all that. The mind says, shut up. Always the heart is crushed under the feet of the intellect, the mind. So that is the normal human being's journey. But when a person he goes on loving, his heart slowly it gains strength. Slowly it becomes very stronger. So because of your association with the personification of love, that is Baba, the heart, it grows in strength, and one day it collects guts to say the intellect, you go and sit in the back seat. Let me handle the steering. That is what happens, when Baba takes over the life of a lover. So the intellect goes into the background, and heart comes and handles the steering. So until that time, you need to subjugate the mind. You need to pamper the intellect by presenting one book, God speaks, stay with God, discourses.
So we have an intellect slayer. I see Nomita getting ready with her knives out. Nomita, go ahead. She's going to slay us intellectuals. You're on mute. Just unmute and can.
Hey, I've been listening to Baba's words, intellectual stuff through books that we've been reading for last few years. So those words, because they have come from Baba, are very meaningful. But those stages, what will these words lead to me? What will all these stages lead me to, and this and that? When you're in love with Baba, when you are in submission to Baba, all these words just dissolve. They don't hold a lot of meaning, because you are completely immersed in His grace and love. Um, these words have helped me, but to me, even today, I feel there's no me. It's just uh, this body is something made up of five elements or whatever it's called, and the reality is just God. And if I see that, and then there's nothing for me to ask, nothing me to seek, that Baba, let me, let this be my last life, because I just cruise along, because I love Baba so much. He is part of my every breath, and this breath is his. So intellect just dissolves by itself. It's only love that remains. And that love is the only reality. All else is illusion. And through Baba's words, intellect, for those of us who are not um, blessed to see from the heart, um, it's His grace that comes down on you, and you feel, what are these words anyway? They have meaning, but it's like, when a washerman is cleaning his clothes, he keeps on beating it on a rock till he feels that it's clean. So I think intellect, to me, to my mind, is like beating yourself on that clock till you just feel love. And there are no questions, no asking. You are just you. And that cannot come through anything else but Baba's grace. And um, I can say I'm recipient of that grace. I feel Him all the time. My soul feels Him all the time, and um, that's what it is. Jai Baba.
Jai, Jai Baba, Jai Baba. Thank you.
Let me just,
Sure.
mention one Francis' poem in Stay with God. In that he says, Don't indulge in admiring your own poetry so much, because it is time for the beloved to come to you. He would tap on your door and he would go away if you don't respond. Don't indulge too much in this, he would say.
Yeah, yeah. Nice, nice.
So
So,
this intellectualizing, that is that is what Francis cautions us about. Don't try to intellectualize.
true,
Yeah,
true. That's a
yeah, Karthik.
temptation. That's a temptation, and that's our obsession. That's the problem. Anyway, so any other questions, Mamaji, Soma, Kashi, and of course, I'd like Raghupati ji to comment on the whole thing and give his perspective as well.
Uh, Thank you very much for the explanations that you have been putting forward. But this tug of war between the intellectual and the heart, there is a need for the intellectual jugglery because we are all tuned to the mind so fast than to the heart, except a few who are always heartful. So because of that, this intellectual needs a satisfaction to understand certain aspects and to see the history of, say, this evolution and then the different avatars and different religions and all that. We need a sort of a unification. We need a sort of, say, synthesis of all this. So unless we have that, otherwise we will always be sort of juggling from here to there. So what Baba has done, as far as my say little understanding, is that so he has clarified very clearly to the intellectual mind that everything is the same. So it is one single existence, and realize that, and he has given the scope of so much of knowledge relating to the sameness of all the religions in essence or in core. So that intellectual jugglery needs to be there for say majority of the population who are mind oriented all the time, so that they can shift from that angle to the heart also. So there is a need for this intellectual jugglery. That is my view.
I
Jai Baba.
no, I think he should take her tomorrow then. Today, yeah,
Yeah.
today I can manage. Tomorrow,
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's a good.
today no, because we can go home.
Nomita, you have to be on mute. I think that is a good perspective. The intellect is unfortunately required, and we need to work through the process to get to the heart. Some are more luckier than the rest. That's my take. Soma, Kashi, any comments before I invite Raghupati ji to comment?
Just a big thank you. It was a very, very beautiful session, bringing us much closer to Baba. Thank you so much.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jai
Kashi, go
Baba.
ahead. I
Yeah.
like your name. Kashi Neti.
Yeah, I am not Kashi. Yes.
Exactly. I love it.
Yeah. Thanks, Baba, and thanks for everything what sir has shared. This intellect and role of intellect in achieving our goal. My understanding is, as Adi Rani says, love with understanding we need. So ultimately, how we are using our intellect, whether we're kind of pampering our ego, or what is the goal of that intellect, we can use that intellect to progress in our daily life, or how we can apply Baba's things. Ultimately, like how we are using is the matter. So whether
Brilliant.
yeah, that is what I can think. See, I can use
Brilliant.
I can use my intellect to make sure that my work done little fast. Rest of the time, I can try to utilize that one to remember Baba. Or similarly, I can use my intellect, then correlate. How can I convince that Meher Baba is the avatar of the age? So I can understand the Rama, Krishna's lives and what their work. Now, if you go over the Meher Baba's Lord Mayor, okay, avatar's life is like this. Of course, somebody blessed by Baba, directly they can feel that avatar. This is what I can think of. There are many things right. First, we have to start with somewhere. Use the intellect to get the love. Okay, then we'll get the obedience. Whatever Meher Baba says, we blindly follow without any thought. Okay, don't worry, miss. Don't worry. That's it. Uh, uh, then next, once we achieve that obedience state, then at the end we will be surrender. We are no more. That's what I think. We can use the intellect to move progress, and how we are using intellect is a matter. Uh, Always we have to focus on Baba, praise Baba, as Sir already mentioned, right? It's not about your poetry. You have to focus on Baba's thing. That's all from my side. Jai Baba.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I think the use of the right use of the intellect, right? So intellect is also a tool, and it's only used till a point, and the right use of it is so beautifully brought out. I thank you so much,
Jai
Karthik.
Baba. Let me add one thing, Karthik.
Sure.
And Adi Baba's secretary, he says, intellect is a bloodhound. Don't allow it. Make it a watchdog.
Wow.
Because
Beautiful analogy.
because it can discharge a tremendous function if you can make it a watchdog. It protects your faith intact. It's the greatest treasure that Baba has given us all. That it is his love. So let our one pointed focus be protected by our intellect. Let it be our watchdog. That is what he says. Jai Baba.
So our group's goal is move from the bloodhound to watchdog. Guys, watch
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
let's do that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So we are almost out of time. So here's what I propose. When we start tomorrow morning, I will start by saying what we have done as backgrounder on Stay with God. And
Please.
then I will talk to you, sir, and then maybe we take up some passages and actually delve into the book. I'll talk to you later today, and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
pick up the sections that we will read together.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Please.
I look forward to tomorrow's session, where I think we will actually dive in and read portions and discuss it at length.
Karthik, we would like to
Yeah,
have
Mama.
a few comments by Raghupati ji.
Raghupati Rao. Yes, that's I forgot. Thank you for the reminder. In fact, I wanted him to comment before we wrap up. Yes, that's Raghupati ji.
Can you hear me, Karthik?
Namaskara. Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Jai Baba.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Actually, Jai Baba. So today's session was very good, informative, and also may get some guidance from this. Now it has gone to now intellectual. Actually, Baba has very clearly told the journey consists of 4 types of conviction. First is intellectual conviction. Second is conviction by experience, that is involution. And conviction by sight, that is sixth plane. Then conviction by experience, that is God realization. So intellectual conviction is a basic thing required. Actually, the world is in duality. So there are people who doesn't know anything about reading or writing. So they directly they get love. And some second category is through intellectual. So as Akashi has correctly told, you have to use the intellectual in a proper way. Then we can achieve our goal. It becomes very easy to achieve our goal. So similarly, on practical example, what happened, I think you may be knowing Venko Brau of Meher Baba Universal Spiritual Center, Bairamangala. So he was with Baba. When Baba was explaining God speaks to his Mandali, so then Venko Brau said, Baba, you are explaining God speaks, but I don't know anything English. I don't know. I cannot understand what you are telling. Then what Baba told is, you are more fortunate because you just believe me whatever I tell you immediately. But these people, they think to be intellectual people, they want some food for their mind also. So I'm explaining them. So they're also coming one same way, and you're also going in the same way. So that intellectual is required or not required, both will lead to the same path at the end. So just like intellectual people say, for example, you are going you want to travel from station A to station B. Intellectual people use Google Map, whereas other people who don't know anything, they will ask somebody and go reach the same place like that. So both will lead the same place. So as Kash said, you have to use the intellectual in a proper way. And anyway, tomorrow session we are going to get very good points from Nageswara ji. We are thankful to him also, and also thankful to Baba. So this is my comment, sir. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Beautiful example. I think what you said is going to carry a lot of weight in the future as well, right? The example is very, very relevant. So on that note, if there are no more comments or questions, we'll wrap up and pick up from where we left off tomorrow morning at 7:30.
So Jai Baba. One
Jai
and all.
Jai
Baba.
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, everybody.
Jai Baba.
Avatar
Jai
Meher
Baba.
Baba
Meher
ki.
Baba ki.
Jai Baba. Thank you to
Jai,
you also,
Jai
Karthik.
Baba.
Thank
Jai
you.
Baba.
Thank you.
Baba.
Thank you so much.
Jai Baba.
Jai
Thank you
Baba.
so much.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Baba.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Karthik. Yes.
Thank you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.